All right, joining us to discuss this further, Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor. Good evening, Sophie. 20 years of the Pan-African Parliament, what a significant milestone. But just for the benefit of those who might not be aware, talk us through the role and the function of PAP.
Well, when you look at the AU Constitutive Act, it speaks to the establishment of the Pan-African Parliament. It's an important organ or body or the legislature on the continent, looking at issues on the continent in general. And therefore, how it's constituted is that member countries do avail members of their respective parliaments to come and serve at the Pan-African Parliament. You have different sessions in which they come down to South Africa as the host nation, and where the Pan-African Parliament is located in Midrand to debate issues on the continent. The challenge with this august body is that this house, many countries still have to ratify protocol that will give the Pan-African Parliament teeth so that they can be able to do also oversight work on the continent, but also recommend in terms of solutions where you have problems on the continent. But unfortunately, because it doesn't have strong powers at this moment, you have a situation where member countries or member states are just ignoring whatever recommendations are coming from the Pan-African Parliament. It has been a battle to fight for more powers and the member countries to really take the Pan-African Parliament seriously.
So unfortunate that 20 years on, there are those who refuse to take this august house, as you say, seriously. But members to represent South Africa's National Assembly in the Pan-African Parliament have been elected. Take us through those.
Well, when you look at the new members who will be at the Pan-African Parliament, who must be sworn in at the Pan-African Parliament, you have the ANC's Ntuli. And Ntuli is one person who's got a strong acumen in terms of politics. He was the secretary of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. He is currently the ANC National Executive Committee member. He is also a chief whip of the ANC in Parliament. As you know, that Phemima Jordina, who's now a minister, was the chief whip of the ANC, and he was leading the South African caucus. And now you also have Duduzile Zuma Sombula. You know that it is a familiar name with all the controversies around how she has been active on social media. When you look at what transpired in the politics in South Africa, supporting the former South African president, Jacob Zuma, who is also his father, and he's got that name in South Africa. And now my observation is that the MK party took a decision to send her to this institution to continue to cement their presence not only in South African politics, also in relation to the continental politics, because her name is going to resonate with many, linking it to the former South African president Jacob Zuma, much as she is a politician right now in her own right. But there will always be that nostalgia in terms of where she comes from, and therefore I think it will profile the MK in the same way. The EFF was strategic by sending Julius Malema, a familiar character or individual or politician, and it didn't take long for EFF to cement its presence at the Pan-African Parliament. And it is those kind of strategies that people are using. And therefore, I think the Pan-African Parliament is going to be very interesting when you have from the Southern Caucus, because they are going to be part of the Southern Caucus, these individuals, especially when you look at Dumseni Ntuli. I mean, he is very, very clear in terms of his politics, particularly the Congress movement politics and the Pan-Africanism. He is very close to the former president of the ANC, Thabo Mbeki, with his Pan-African approach. And therefore, you can see that ANC took a decision to really send a very strong and credible representative to the Pan-African Parliament to lead the South African caucus.
Then I want us to shift our focus to the UK's elections, since you're still here with us in studio. They head to the polls this Thursday. We've seen some opinion polls that aren't so favourable for Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party. Just take us through those.
Well, we know that on Thursday, UK is going to the polls, and we know that the current Prime Minister is struggling, and there are reports in terms of the polls that the Labour Party is going to do well. I'm not so sure whether it will be able to garner enough support to put together a government. If that happens, it will be historic, because it has been some time the Labour Party has not been part of government. And this will augur well, particularly for the African National Congress and the alliance partners in South Africa, because they have a strong standing relationship with the Labour Party. And therefore, I think South Africa will be watching the elections in the UK, hoping that, of course, the Labour Party will do well, because you can even strengthen the trade relations, because politically you have a better relationship.
Then to France's elections, the most topical. My goodness, Sophie, many criticised Emmanuel Macron for that decision to call for the snap elections when he did. And most of them felt that it was a reckless gamble that would hand political power to the far right. And the first round of elections, it seems as though it could go that way.
Yes, indeed. The first round, it was a clear message to him that the people in France, the voters, are disgruntled. And therefore, you saw the rise or the strengthening of the right-wing party and other alliances of that party. And therefore, now he is trying to turn the situation around. He's hoping that with the second round, he might do better. But it looks like, when you look at the polls, that the far-right parties are still going to do well. And therefore, this will be a huge blow to him. And he is going to be a lame duck going forward. When you lose power, you are a lame duck, because you have to go and beg other people to help you to form a government. And you get weakened, because those parties will come with demands. And therefore, his political future is in tatters as we speak. But we don't know whether on the second round might produce a better result. But the reality is, right now, he is a laughingstock in France and around the world, because clearly what the results communicated weekend, they spoke to him not being as strong as he thought he was, and therefore he doesn't have a mandate.
We'll see what the second round brings for him. Sophie, thank you very much for that update. That's Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor, just giving us the latest international developments.